On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very exclusive treat. She's a devoted mother, wife, holistic health practitioner, yoga teacher, author, and creator of the Golden Secrets, which is a holistic, sustainable skincare and wellness line, just to name a few. She has used her multifaceted career as a platform to inspire and empower people all over the world, and I am one of them. Her accomplishments began at an early age when, as a child, she became a ballerina in her mother's dance studio. After overcoming obstacles and adversity, she established herself as the face of hope in the health and fitness industry. Big facts. Through her brand, she shares the products, tools, and tips that she acquired both from her journey back to health and through her life experiences, helping countless people heal naturally and holistically. She's here to teach you how to be a light for yourself and for the world. She's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific mother and wife. Please welcome the glowing, radiant, resilient, abundant, beautiful, and brilliant, the dynamic Jessie Golden. How you doing, Jessie?
Wow, you're hired. Thank you so much. What a beautiful intro.
I did good by you. You feel nice and elevated?
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Truth is, we probably could have chatted for a couple hours before we record, but at some point we're like, let's save the juicy stuff for the show. For my audience, in case you're not familiar, my best suggestion is to do a deep dive, play catch up, check out all the cool stuff Jessie has golden on, specifically her content. It's awesome. It'll penetrate your soul. What I think is most valuable today is we just have an unbelievable conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me?
Oh my God, I'm excited.
Jessie, what is your superpower?
My superpower is taking all the challenges in my life and turning them into my superpower. Rheumatoid arthritis, to name one.
Yeah. First of all, I know this to be true, and you put out a quote somewhat recently because I was checking out your content, which I suggest everybody do immediately following this episode. And you said something along the lines of when an obstacle comes, instead of like going away from it, use that as an opportunity to showcase everything you've learned. Something along those lines. You said it more beautifully.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I feel like it's an opportunity. I think, we're innately designed to like shun away when things happen to us that are dark or challenging, but it's inevitable. Life, the lessons never end. So I choose to look at those challenging times as an opportunity to practice everything that I've learned. And I think it's within those darkest moments. I mean, everybody could name probably 5 things in their darkest moments where they rose above and evolved and became stronger and more knowledgeable.
This is so good, straight up. And like, spoiler alert, obstacles, adversity, it's a part of life. It's a part of the journey. We're not saying you have to love it, but we have to acknowledge that they're there. And ultimately, your perspective is up to you. And it's interesting because back in the day, before I kind of reinvented myself, I would particularly play victim mode when something like this happened. Like, why me? Now I have a whole different philosophy. And when I'm going through something, even if I don't understand why at the time, I know that it's going to lead to more growth or something beautiful at some point, even if I can't see it now, because at the end of the day, pain is the portal, right?
So true. Yeah, I'm always able to look back at things, even just like you said, even if you don't understand why somebody left your life for a reason or you lost a job and it's like, woe is me. And then later on you look back and you're like, oh my God, I found the love of my life. Thank God that relationship ended. Or I found a more fulfilling job. Thank God they fired me. There's always something positive out of anything negative. And that is my superpower. I've always been able to find that cup half full and really train my brain to have that perspective.
Yeah, hell yeah. And you mentioned when someone like leaves your life, like now I'm under the mindset that if someone's gone, we're being protected, propelled, and promoted to something greater because they weren't meant to be on this journey with us.
100%. The contract's over. If they leave, you learned what you were supposed to learn. It's done.
Contract's over. That's awesome. Yeah. I want to give the audience a little bit of context. I know you tell your background story often, so I don't want to spend too much time there. I want to focus more on the exciting stuff that you have going on, but we can't not address the issue, your health issue, when you were a little bit younger. And that took you out of the game for a minute, but you kind of use that as a catalyst to not only overcome, but really showcase so much hope for everybody that's out there dealing with something, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I got diagnosed with RA, this was pre-Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook was there. If there was another app, I don't remember what it was, but there really wasn't much communication, and there certainly wasn't as much education as there is now. There's so many resources. Unfortunately, it seems like everybody has an autoimmune disease. But when I got diagnosed, nobody was talking about it. And it was associated with an older person's disease, a degenerative disease. So I really felt like, well, first of all, I grew up modeling. I grew up as a ballerina, and I really was what I thought was the epitome of health. I gave birth at home naturally. I never even took Tylenol, like very health conscious. And my body just shut down. Like it literally happened overnight. And I didn't walk for almost a year of my life. I went through this entire healing crisis where I went from Western medicine to Eastern medicine on this venture to really heal myself, to get to the root cause of everything. This was 15 years ago. And I was kind of in the public eye because at the same exact time, once I first healed myself, I don't like to say healed myself, but when I was able to like rebuild my body back up, I got back into yoga. I was a yoga teacher. All the yoga companies were just coming to birth. And I was one of the few models that was actually a certified yoga teacher. So I kind of locked in the game. I was able to extend my career much longer because I was already in my 30s at that point. And I was able to be the face of a lot of yoga brands. Yoga was just coming about, and my story sold yoga pants. And so people were allowing me to share my story, how I didn't walk for a year and yoga saved my life, basically. But for me, coming from a modeling background and a dancer's background where I really didn't have a voice and I was just a pretty face or a talent, it was the first time in my life where I got to like be more than just a picture. I got to share my story. I got to motivate people, and it lit me up. Talking about, like, it reminds me of your story. Like it just, all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I have purpose. This is so cool. People are listening to me. I have a voice. So I started sharing. And then people started messaging me and emailing me and being like, how did you do it? Tell me what you ate. Tell me what you do every day. What are your rituals? What are you doing? What did the doctor say? Did you take any medicine? So I just started sharing. I started a blog called The Golden Secrets, where I just started sharing the basic questions I was getting because I was a single mom. I was working. I was still trying to heal myself. And I just I didn't have the bandwidth to respond to everybody, but I felt very responsible to respond to them and to help as many people as I could, because I knew what it was like to be in that dark place. And at the time, it was like doctors would just put you on steroids. They would tell you diet has nothing to do with it. New medications were just coming about called TNF blockers, which actually stop the progression of damage, but side effects are lymphoma. So there was a lot of like, I just felt responsible to start sharing. And then it's interesting because that's why I look at rheumatoid arthritis as a blessing and a curse. It's like, it gave me my voice. It helped me be able to share my story. And it's just opened up so many other doors. I ended up becoming a holistic health practitioner. I wrote a book, and, it's not my identity. I don't need it anymore,
Yeah.
but it definitely opened up a lot of doors. And I chose to use it as a platform to inspire a bunch of people.
And thank God you did. And wow, like think about how many lives you've touched and impacted because this happened.
Right. And that's what I always think about. I'm like, if I could just help one person, and that's the love hate with even social media. I take it very serious. Every post that I make, it's like I have an opportunity to shift somebody's day, shift somebody's life, and I take it very serious, to be able to have that effect on people.
Yeah. And life happens for us, not to us, right? Imagine for just a moment that if that whole situation didn't happen, like where would you have been on your journey now?
Yeah, it's crazy because talking about perspective, the statistics are not good for rheumatoid arthritis. After 10 years, 60% of people are completely disabled. and I'm at 15 years. And I chose to never accept the statistics, never accept what the doctors told me.
Good.
And instead, I've used it as a motivation every single day. It keeps me in line. That's why I'm healthy. That's why I eat healthy. That keeps me on the forefront of like what's going on, listening to my body, self-love. And it keeps me motivated. Like I don't have, there's this somebody, I forgot who it was. Somebody said some of the healthiest people in the world are those living with autoimmune disease. It's because we don't have an opportunity to fall off the wagon. we have to be healthy. Like we have to take care of ourselves. We have to listen to our body. And it actually, I think, could prevent us from having a lot of other issues. Like some people can go years and eat horribly and then, just have a heart attack or something,
Yeah, and of course, I want to give you all the credit in the world for choosing a different approach, but also I imagine you have a lot of faith or hope, right? And that's something that doctors don't really take into consideration. I'll never forget. My pops is much older than me. They had me a little bit later. I have one sibling, an older brother, my best friend. My dad's 87. But 5 years ago, he got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And I'll never forget. The doctor came in and gave my dad a very pessimistic, timetable and stuff like that. And I just thought that was so like inappropriate. Like, what about faith or hope? Like, does that count for something? And now my dad, here he is. I was just at his last doctor visit when that same doctor gave
Wow.
the PET scan results and goes, I'm really shocked. Like I would have been happy if it stayed the same. They're shrinking because he's doing, these treatments and so forth. But there's just something to be said about like, don't listen to the statistics and then make up your mind. Like form your own opinion, right? Try something else. Look at Jessie. I mean, she's a shining example. And I want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you so much. I remember reading something about that, like the doctors that told you like how much time you have. A lot of patients actually end up dying exactly on that day or something.
Yeah.
Because if you accept it subconsciously, you take that in, you swallow it, and you absorb it, and you digest it, and that's it. And I think we have to be really careful, especially the world we're living in now, what content we're taking in and absorbing every day.
Yeah, specifically now, right?
Yeah.
You have to be so selective and intentional, and you get to choose what you're available for, right, and what you're not. I love that you said that. You did mention self-love. It's interesting because people are so fascinated by what I've been able to do in 2 years' time, and they think it's an overnight success. True stories. I've been working on myself for 15 years, personal development. I just finally put it all together. But also, I'll be 100% honest. Like in the pandemic, while a lot of people were doing Netflix and day drinking, I was working. I was building the brand. I was putting myself out there. But one thing that I really doubled down on is because I was buying into this story that Wall Street was it for me. I'll never fall in love. All this stuff, and I didn't really like myself. And in the beginning of the pandemic, I just made this like promise to myself that it's true. I'm not thrilled with where I am, but I'm going to forgive myself and I'm going to love myself and I'm going to work on myself. And really, all that matters is what we do next. And I think self-love for me, and to be honest with you, I'm articulating this kind of for the first time with you right now. So thank you for holding space. But it was such a catalyst for my reinvention was I really started to love myself. Doesn't mean I approve of everything, right? But I love myself and I'm still a work in progress. But I know you often talk about self-love and I imagine different people have different definitions. What does self-love mean to you and how important is it for you?
It was a huge part of it still is a huge part of my healing process. I thought for a long time I had self-love because I was confident. And then I realized that I was actually treating myself horribly and I had a horrible inner dialogue that was very critical and I was breaking myself down, talking to myself how I would never talk to somebody I loved. And I had that big realization when I was at my worst, when I was really sick and I started noticing my thought patterns. I actually traced it back to growing up in the dance studio. And I think anybody that played any sport or did any athletic stuff can relate. But in a dance room, there's a mirror the size of the entire room. So you can judge yourself the entire time. And the teacher is pointing out every single thing you're doing wrong. So being a ballerina, you're trying to achieve this epitome of perfection that really doesn't exist. So I looked back, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm constantly trying to be perfect and breaking myself down. And then somebody said something to me, or I read something somewhere where it was like, how you treat yourself is how your future partner is going to treat you. And that was like, oh no. I was like, I better start treating myself real good. And I realized that self-love was the foundation for everything, for my partner, for my work, for the quality of life I have, for everything. And just like what you were saying, I think self-love also allows you to align with yourself. And when you align with yourself, life aligns with you. And then you're able to like do what you're meant to do on this planet.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like you could still not love something specifically, but work towards it. But all in all, like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're perfect just the way you are, and you can improve, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's always like room for improvement. Like, I think it's just an acceptance. I think men go through this too, but I don't know. I feel like women might have it a little bit harder. Because I mean, maybe men do this, I don't know, but owning a skincare company, I put positive affirmations with each product because I personally know that when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we're pointing out all the negatives, the wrinkles, the brown spots, this is falling, or, instead of that, what if we took that opportunity to say, I am beautiful, I am radiant, I am energized, and just start rewiring that brain for the positive. So, yeah, I think we can all be really critical. So I think a big part of self-love is just accepting who we are physically.
Yeah, I love that you do that. It's like skincare, but also lifestyle, right? And those
Yeah.
and affirmations are huge.
Yeah, I mean, I never had I tell this story, but I never had intention of being a skincare owner. I made stuff for myself for years.
I
And
know.
then through my blog and everything, people were like, what's your golden secret? I was like, this is getting ridiculous. I need to start sharing this stuff. Like, what is going on? Um, but it was so important to me because I was in the industry as a model for my entire life, and I kind of saw the behind the scenes of how products were developed and marketed, and I saw a disconnect between the farmer and the factory and the person who was the face of the product. The person who was the face of the product usually never even used the product. It's all, propaganda. So, and I just felt like there was so much false, just, the beauty industry was selling the problem and the solution for so long, especially for women, like giving them stuff to dry out their skin. And then, they're having acne, so they're drying out their skin. And then the sebum production is overproducing, and now it's oil. It's just like this vicious cycle. And I was like, gosh, I just want to like help women and show them that like they could use natural organic products and just stop this vicious cycle. But I also had to make it be beyond the skin, because beauty is like, it's surface, it's so surface level. And I think beauty is so much more than that. And if you do that inner work, it shines, it radiates, regardless of a wrinkle. you know?
Right? Like confidence and good energy. Like that's a huge thing.
Yeah, that's what you see. I mean, for me, what I'm attracted to is people's energy. I mean, sometimes I don't even remember what people look like. I'm like, I felt good in their presence.
Good, good, yeah.
Like you can tell, like you either feel good or bad with somebody.
100%.
Yeah,
And I couldn't agree more. And specifically now, like I protect my energy for the life of me. I think you do the same. Is that right?
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I've distanced myself from a lot of people from my past life. I say past life, like over the last 2.5 years since I, totally reinvented my identity and so forth. And people are like, isn't that hard? This, that, the other thing. And I'm like, look, I'm evolving and I'm growing. I'm not saying I'm outgrowing people because essentially they have a choice to grow with me, but I'm just going in this direction. And if I ever find myself in an interaction and I leave that with like a lowered frequency, like if I keep going back to that, that's on me. Right. And of course, like, I don't know about you, I'd love to find out, like certain exceptions, like with your immediate family, sometimes maybe your parents are pessimistic, whatever the case may be, you go into that with a little bit of different thought process. But if it's not your immediate family, like nobody has a hall pass. Like People are in your life for a season and a reason. And once you understand that, I think it makes you evolving a little bit easier to handle. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, two things come to mind. I just read this thing the other day. It's like you might notice that a lot of people are falling out of your life, and it's just because you're ascending quicker than them, and they're literally not in the same dimension as you anymore. I was like, oh,
That sounds
okay.
like something you would say.
Yeah. I was like, that's really cool. Um, and then what was the other thing I wanted to say? We were talking about what were you just saying?
Like your parents or someone that maybe doesn't have the best energy or
Oh, yeah. It's like if you think you're enlightened, go spend a weekend with your family. It's like obviously we still have to, like, I've been saying this for years because I
so
left home when
funny.
I was 17, but like I always say, I love you guys from a distance. I am sending you love, but I love my family. But yeah, I mean, some of them are challenging for me, but I also, I just try and look at like the lesson in that. And like, you know, every time I'm with my mom, I do more yoga practice than I ever do. So I keep myself
Wait, wait,
calm.
Jesse, those were so good. Can you run those back? What was the family one? If you think you're
Um,
enlightened,
if you think you're enlightened, go spend a weekend with your family.
I'm writing that down. That's so funny to me. And what
Because
was
there's so much to learn in those people that trigger you. It's like I could hang out with you all day and we're not going to have a bad vibe and there's not going
no,
to be an argument. I could go hang out with my sister for 5 minutes and she will trigger something inside of me that is not healed.
I
And I will
totally
have
get
to
it.
use all those tools that I've been trying to work on for the last
Yeah.
40 plus years.
So between me and you, like, 'cause I think this would be valuable for the audience. If that was not your sister, if that was just like a friend, you would probably distance yourself, right?
I don't even, I'm very tuned into my instinct. I don't even get in the vicinity. I don't, yeah, it's gotten to the point where I've ignored my instinct enough. Like, even if my friend is like, hey, I got invited to this event, let's go to the event. And my instinct is like, ooh, and like all the blood instantly leaves my body.
Yeah.
That is my body's instinct going, not a good vibe for you.
I know.
But if energetically I get excited and like animated and I feel it, 100%. But if I doubt something at all, I'm out. Like I've trusted my instinct so much at this point, and I
Yeah.
just don't have. I When I started doing that was when I became a mom. I think a lot of women start setting boundaries for the first time in their life when they become a mom because they just don't have the bandwidth to give anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when I started laying boundaries. And then when I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis at 29, it was like no time for BS. Like, so I've been really good at keeping just good people around me.
Yeah, it's so good. I don't know if you know Heidi Powell. I was just talking to her yesterday. We were doing an Instagram live, and she said, I don't use the word boundaries much more. Standards, right? Standards for
Oh,
your,
I love that.
yeah, for yourself, like
That
integrity.
is beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, hell yeah. I
I
want
like
to
that.
pull out a couple of your hits right now because I think they're awesome and I think they're really fun to talk about. I think they really help the audience. I saw you write somewhere, how you feel right now is a good indicator of what's to come. And that's kind of in alignment with what you were just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly like working on myself, and everything I share, I need to hear too. Like, that's the bottom line. So, as I said earlier, we're never ending students. We just have to become better at like learning these lessons. And I'm always trying to remind myself, it's like, what vibe am I putting out right now? I try and think of myself as like an antenna, or like, what am I putting out there? What am I attracting? Because I feel like whatever you're vibing, you're going to attract towards you. And I truly believe that when you're in a positive vibration, you have positive thoughts, positive feelings, and you're just vibing high, everything in that same energy just naturally comes towards you. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's not so much of like trying to make things happen. It's like just freaking vibe high and have fun and laugh and like, have a good time and like allow things to come in and be received.
This is dynamite. And also, I know you talk about often about the secret is to have fun along the way. right?
Mm.
And along with what you just said, like I think most people think, and I know this because I've conscious, I was one of them, that once you get the thing, right, or once you get the partner or the money, the relationship, then you'll feel happy, or then you'll have a lit soul. But the whole irony is, and something that I've learned is first you activate that lit soul. And then ironically, you end up manifesting all the things you thought you needed to have that lit soul. And it just goes back to falling in love with the journey and the process. And it's not so much about the championship ring, right? It's about who we become in the process, right?
Absolutely. Abraham Hicks says that if you get a race car, if you get like a fast car, you want to drive on a road that has twists and turns and bumps and like, so you can really feel the road onto your destination. If it was just a straight, narrow road and you got there right away, it would be boring.
Right.
And so I try and think of that, like about the journey and the fact that, I remember having that epiphany where it was like, oh shit, like the lessons never end. Like we
Never.
just have to keep going on. So we might as well enjoy the ride, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good. Um, I could agree more. And also, like once you really buy into that, then you fall in love with you're able to like stack magical moments because you're not relying upon a specific outcome or something to make you feel good. You can literally like for me, like I don't care about anything else in the world right now except having an unbelievable conversation with you, building rapport and so forth. And when you can be super mindful and present, um, to me, that's the portal to expansion is being so mindful and not being all in your head and your thoughts.
100%. And it's a constant, process. I think, especially with the world we're living in now, when I started yoga 20 plus years ago, it was very weird. Like not many people did it. And meditation was like completely bizarre. And now it's like there's a meditation studio on every corner. There's meditation apps. And just it's because we're so bombarded by so many external things. We need that opportunity to tune in with ourselves,
Yeah.
align with ourselves, listen to ourselves, and have that connection.
Why did you gravitate and fall in love with yoga in the first place?
Oh gosh, this is a
Where do I
crazy story.
begin, right?
Yeah, this is a crazy story actually. It's really interesting because so I was already a ballerina, so I could do all the tricks, all
When you say
the
ballerina, I think of like the movie Black Swan, like that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, my mom had a dance studio, so I was like a competitive dancer, but ballet was like my heart. Like I got to dance with Fort Worth Ballet when I was like 15. It's a crazy story, but they allow children to have certain parts in the ballet. And one of the understudies during, you have to be 18 to even be in company. One of the understudies during intermission, like broke her ankle or something. So they taught me the piece during the 20-minute intermission at like the Civic Opera House in Chicago. It was crazy. And I was only 15, maybe. And my mom was in the audience. She was like, that's my daughter. And all her friends were
Wow.
like, no, it's not. She's not in the company. And she's like, I know my daughter. But anyways, it was a short-lived career. I was like, I'm not going to do this forever and kill myself for no money. Unfortunately, dancers don't really make any money.
Right here.
Uh, but what did you ask me? I went on a tangent there.
Oh, conversation is so good. I know. So in the moment, why did you gravitate and fall in love with yoga in the first place?
Oh, okay. So this is a little crazy story. So I um I was a very unusual kid and I didn't have like a great home. I'm giving you a backstory, but basically I started experimenting with drugs at a very young age. 13, 15. I was like dropping LSD. And I didn't realize that I was a sensitive soul at that time. People that are like me and very sensitive, it takes very little to push you over the edge. So long story short, after the last time I had dropped acid, I started getting major panic attacks. Like drugs are not for me, is the long story short.
Same.
Started getting major panic attacks. And my aunt had given me this yoga book that I was so fascinated with all the poses and stuff like that. But there was this whole part on breathing, pranayama. And it saved my life. Nobody had ever taught me how to breathe. Ballet, dance, nobody ever talks about breathing, which is mind blowing to me. And it was just these simple exercises of bringing conscious awareness to my breath. And it was the only way that I could literally get myself to fall asleep and calm down. And I just started falling in love with that first. And then once I started practicing, it was such a beautiful practice coming from a ballet studio, a dance studio where everything is hypercritical and it has a mirror and you're being judged all the time. And you're taught to ignore every signal in your body, to walking into a yoga class where it almost felt like the only thing that I could associate it to at that time was like church. Like it was a safe place. It felt safe to me. There was no mirrors, there was no judgment. If you felt tired, you could go to child's pose. You're taught to listen to your body. And I was just like, whoa. And then the whole thing was also about breathing. And it wasn't about, now on yoga, and it's just simply because it's the best way to get people's attention. And I was guilty of it for the last 20 years, is by doing the cool poses. But the most advanced yogi is one that can maintain a steady breath the entire practice. And that's the kind of stuff that I fell in love with and that I noticed was translating off of the mat into my life. Like, can you put your leg behind your head, maintain a steady breath, and not want to kill the teacher? you know and it's like, if you do that enough and you train your brain enough to find peace in that uncomfortableness, it translates into your life and you're better able to manage difficult circumstances.
Yeah, this is awesome. And when I asked you this and you started going in, you lit up like a Christmas tree.
Oh, I know, I did. Yeah, I say it all the time. Yoga has saved my life more times than I can count. It's such a beautiful practice.
Yeah. The way you describe it, I think would make anybody want to at least try it if they haven't. Um, so cool. And meditation, obviously
Mm.
there's some correlation so forth. Do you meditate like in addition to yoga, or is that like all encompassing?
Yeah, no, I try to meditate every morning. Sometimes chaotic things happen and I'm not able to,
Yeah.
but I definitely have to have that separate time where I'm not moving. And I'm just able to like clear my brain, check in with myself, have that peace and quiet. And I like doing it in the morning because I think we're closer to like that meditative state. So it's easier to get there when you just wake up.
Mhm.
And then it also sets the rest of my day like so nicely, where I just feel like I'm aligned. And when I'm aligned, everything connects and works better.
Yeah. I found it challenging to meditate. When I run, for me, it's like a moving meditation. Like it's just me, I'm connected to God and I do my best thinking. It's just beautiful.
You
But
get clear, right? I
yeah,
used to walk a lot. Like I used to do like this. I was like the crazy speed walker mom, but I would get so clear. I
yes,
would come up with ideas and like things would flow and like
yes.
yeah, I totally get
What a
that.
coincidence. And when that happens, it's like instead of like my thoughts going like this, I kind of like become a witness to the thoughts. And like I'm like so like I'm just conscious and have an idea what's going on. And like my thoughts aren't controlling me. Thoughts are not facts and they're not even you, right? Because if you step back, they're going anyway. Most people
Mm.
are just like plagued by the negative thoughts, so to speak. But there's something, and I'm still working on this, right? You're significantly further ahead than I am, but it is
Yeah.
something so beautiful, pure, and enriching, and just awesome and blissful about like being able to get in that, and like you said, check in with yourself.
Yeah. It's so important nowadays. I mean, everybody has an opinion about everything and everything is bad for you and everybody has a better diet. And it's like, I think you really need to listen to your own biofeedback and your own intuition at the end of the day. And, educate yourself, listen to as many people as you want, but then take that time to check in and see what resonates with you.
Yeah, form your own opinion.
Yeah.
Another Jesse classic. If it's your calling, it will keep calling. That that one hit home for me based upon what I've done over the last couple of years, but for the audience, I think most people, sadly, know that they're here for something more than they're currently doing. So I'm curious, what exactly do you mean by that? If it's your calling, it'll keep calling.
Well, I think society, I mean, I'm sure you can relate. I mean, not to regret anything that you did, because I think you being in Wall Street also made what you're doing now successful, like that wisdom that you gained.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are forced into situations because of their parents or because of school or because society, and they go against what their innate wisdom tells them. Like, maybe you're supposed to be a doctor, but like your heart is like, oh, I love painting, but you can't make money at that. So it's like they just go this path of like becoming a doctor, and then they're miserable. And then later on, finally, when they get miserable enough, they listen to themselves and they start painting. And it actually becomes successful because that's what they were supposed to do all along. I get a lot of people that are reaching out to me. How did you start this business? How do you post on social media? How do you? And I've gotten to the realization where if people have given you the tools to do something and you still can't find the motivation to do it, I don't think that's your calling.
Agreed.
What is your calling? Like, what is that thing? And it doesn't have to be what I do. It doesn't have to be what you do. It doesn't like, what is that thing that lights you up? Like, it could be, I'm a dog walker. Like, I freaking love walking dogs.
Yeah.
Then own it and like start a business walking dogs.
That's
Like,
it.
and it'll just keep coming up. Like, I mean, for example, my skincare. I didn't want to own a skincare company. I really didn't. It was not in the cards. What are you putting on your skin? What's your golden secret? It was literally like a decade of people shoving it down my throat. I was like, I hear you. I get it. So, it kept calling.
Yeah, I'm so glad I asked you this because one of the core messages of what I coach and talk about is what you just said. And I believe if you're passionate about something or you believe it's your assignment, like you don't have to worry so much about the how. Like it's just an energetic exchange, the money, like you'll monetize it. But like for me, like this isn't work to me. Like there's no place in the world I'd rather be than talking to you right now. And I think everybody with this short trip that we're here, forget about souls and spirits just for a second, this human experience. Like if it doesn't light you up, then it's not the thing, right? Like if you still need like someone to tell you to get up in the morning or an alarm clock, that's not the thing. And I know that because I spent so long like, oh shit, it's Monday. Like I can't wait for the weekend until I found this. And people are always like, Craig, what are you on? Like, you don't get it. It took me 35 years to find myself, but I could not agree more. Like you'll know. And if you're hate your job, like a career is gonna be a third of your life, like 30%. Like you should love what you do. And I always used to be skeptical of people that say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm like, it'll always be a job, but no,
Yeah, you're like, all right,
yeah.
whatever.
But like
Yeah.
when you find that thing, like it brings everything together for you.
Yeah. And I mean, it took a lot of courage for you to do that, but I've seen so many people too, that's the blessing in COVID. I mean, COVID was horrible and the whole thing, but I saw so many people have to get to finally do what they were meant to do, because when you're in a job, I mean, I know so many people that are just miserable, and until it was taken away from them because they weren't willing to just walk away and start something new.
Yeah.
So if it's taken away from you, it's sometimes easier. I mean, I find that even with breakups too, it's like, um, there's a reason for everything. And you
Yeah.
just have to trust that it's like all unfolding as it should.
Yeah, this is so good. Only negative I got going on is we don't have 10 hours to chat, but I know it's just the beginning of the friendship. I want to ask you one really deep one, and then we'll end up playing with the exciting stuff that you're up to now. You're very vocal and you talk often about struggling to get pregnant or to have a kid. I know that
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there. In fact, my brother and my sister-in-law had trouble for a while, and they finally had my nephew, and it's great. And so
Oh,
yeah, it's the best. But I know there's a lot of people out there. It could be a struggle, right? I
yeah.
can't even imagine what that feels like. Maybe you can kind of give some insight on what it feels like, and what are some ways that you handle that to stay positive and really, stay in that good vibe, good energy, even though some of those setbacks might seem terrible at the time.
Yeah, I mean, circling back to what we started with, talking about a challenge giving you an opportunity. I mean, it's taken me through so many different emotions. Um, and I had my son when I have one son. When I was 25, I gave birth at home naturally, breastfed, did attachment parenting. Everything was like as easy and as beautiful as possible. So when I finally met my husband, I was so excited and was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to do this alone. Like, we're going to have the best situation. And then come to it, it has not been an easy journey. I mean, I'm much older now, which has a huge play in it. But something that, like, I mean, I started sharing right away. I had 2 miscarriages, and then I decided to do IVF because of my age, so that we could test the embryos to make sure they're good. Because I didn't want women or couples to feel alone. I wanted people to know that, like, this is more common than not, even in people that are younger than me. And there's things that you can do. You can go to your doctor, you can get blood tests and get your AMH levels to see if you have a good egg reserve. Something that, like, I wish I knew that I haven't shared this publicly anywhere, is you have to be your own advocate. I think it's amazing what they're doing with IVF, but I feel like a lot of people just get the same protocol. So if something's not working, if you have 1 miscarriage, 2 miscarriage, you need to dive a little bit deeper. Don't waste your time. For me, rheumatoid arthritis has played a huge factor in me being able to maintain an embryo, basically, because what rheumatoid arthritis does is it attacks your body. So it's seeing the embryo as like a foreign object and attacking it, basically. So immune health, thyroid, progesterone, like there's a lot of tests that you can do to educate yourself, and you really have to be your own advocate. I can't say that enough. Like, doctors only know so much, and
And
you
they're
just
very
got to
analytical
research.
with stats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, more on a spiritual level, I've come to a place, because it's been almost 3 years now since we've been trying, and I've come to a place where I've done all the things. I've done everything. I've done all the diets. I've done all the IVF. I just did another treatment. I haven't even talked about this either. So you guys are getting all the juice.
Thank
I
you.
just have this lit procedure. It's illegal here. It's legal in Canada and Mexico. So me and my husband went to Tijuana, and they basically take his blood. They take the white blood cells out and put it in my skin, and it's to help my body become more accustomed to his white blood cells, so that when the baby goes in there, I don't notice it. I notice it as a friend instead of a foe, basically. So I'm doing all the things.
Yeah.
And I'm staying positive. And if a baby is supposed to come into this world, it's going to come, regardless of what I do. So we're just staying super positive, and I think that plays a huge part. And just one more thing, the hormones that you have to do for women, wow, it is intense. And just know that it will pass, and there are tools that you can do, like before and after, to help you navigate a little bit easier. But when you're playing with these different types of hormones that they have you do for IVF, it could be intense.
That's what I hear.
Sure. Yeah.
God bless your husband, right?
Well, he really lucked out because he works in Canada half of the year. So, like, I was kind of stuck here doing that because I couldn't leave. Like, we were just in a really tough situation. He wanted to be here more than ever. But for most of it, he was gone, and my son was here, who's now 18. Like, he had to help me with some of my shots and stuff. I mean, it was a wild experience. And both my husband and my son are scared of needles, but they
Really?
got over that. Yeah, it's really funny.
How often do you have to take them? Every single day?
Oh yeah, I had to do, when you're doing a cycle, you have to do multiple. I mean, it was probably like, I could do all the ones in my stomach, but there was a progesterone one that you have to do in your bum. and I literally could not reach it because you have to, it's kind of graphic, but you have to push the needle into the muscle, pull it out to make sure you didn't hit like a blood vessel, then push it in. And like you physically can't do that yourself. It's like insane.
Wow. Thank you for pulling back
Yeah.
the curtain. Jesse, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
44.
Holy doing something
Yeah.
right.
Thank you. Well, that's why it'll be a miracle if I'm able to conceive. But my doctor is so positive. I mean, we
Not
still
if,
haven't.
but when.
Yeah, exactly. He said something the other day. We were talking about doctors like not saying nice things, and we have a healthy embryo, and he was saying, "Honey, don't worry. Uteruses don't age." Because we already have the embryo. And I'm like, oh, okay, uteruses don't age. Okay. So I'm okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's all gonna work out. And I
Yeah.
want to acknowledge you for being so vulnerable right here, but also that you continue to share your story with your massive audience and community to let people know they're not alone. And isn't it interesting? Like when I started really getting vulnerable and talking about some of the things that I was struggling with, whatever the case may be, the audience resonated and gravitated and connected with me so much more. The more vulnerable I would be, the stronger the connection. And it's a beautiful paradigm shift, because at first, I don't know about you, but like you would think, oh, I don't want to display that or showcase some of this stuff. But ironically, that's what the people find most relatable and are able to connect with you.
I think we're craving connection. By the way, a thunderstorm just happened. I don't know if you guys could hear the lightning and thunder.
No,
It's
not
like,
good.
oh, it's so loud. I think we're craving connection more than ever. And social media can make you feel like you're the only one going through struggles. And, it's really nice to have a positive outlook every day, but it's also nice to see the real shit and how people are going through it. And it was really important for me when I started sharing about this was to have like a resolve. Like it wasn't like, woe is me, my life is over. It was like, this is what we're going through and we're going through it together. And, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I'm still happy and enjoying my life. And I'm so grateful that like I have an 18-year-old healthy son and, an amazing husband who constantly reminds me, even though he's not my son's birth dad, that we already have a son. So it's just I couldn't be more grateful.
That's beautiful. And also, it's all going to work out. Have a good feeling.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is so much fun. The audience is really loyal and engaging, about 5 million now. What's the best way for all of them to support you? What are you most excited about right now?
I haven't shared this yet, but I finally can share it because I just got the sample. I am coming out with a deck of guidance cards. This is like
Cool.
the most exciting thing I've ever done because I've been working on it probably my whole life. And it just wasn't happening. And then my dad actually passed in 2017. And I kind of transmuted that pain into the creation of this deck. So that's when I started writing it. And he was the whole, he really inspired me because he was a Sagittarius like me. And I always say that we're like the most optimistic of the astrological signs. And basically the deck is a way for you to tune in with yourself, to connect. It has beautiful affirmations. And it gives you things to like tune into, like there's a card that says self-love and it'll tell you exactly what to do, like write 10 things about yourself that you love, or it gives you tasks so that you can actually like get that what you're trying to acquire into motion.
Oh, cool. So
And I
it's
feel
tangible.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's tangible, and it's like it's just a way for me to be able to connect with more people and help more people without being able to physically be there. Like I've always had this connection with I have like angel cards and goddess cards and that kind of thing. And I'm so excited. They're in production, so they'll be out soon.
This is so in alignment with who you are and who you're becoming. It makes perfect sense. I'm excited about it.
Thank you. I'll send you some when we get them.
Yeah, I would love that. This is so much fun. Jesse, hang up for 1 sec. I want to connect with you after. I want you to know you're the definition of being in alignment, authenticity, and unbelievable energy. I could personally guarantee your best yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today.
Thank you so much.
That was too much fun. I could talk to you
That
all.
was so sweet. I know. I love that. I love when I do these podcasts, and sometimes it's like we could just talk forever.
Yeah, no, I really feel a connection here. I love what you're doing. I love to support you in other capacities too. Let's stay connected.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Do you run your own Instagram or do you like have somebody that does that?
I do it.
Okay.
Do you?
I do it myself.
Yeah, I do it myself too. I'm a little bit of a control freak.
Same. I was gonna ask you, when's your birthday?
December 2nd.
Oh, because there's a lot
Why?
of alignment. That's why I was just curious. I'm April 27th, Taurus.
Oh, my son's a Taurus.
Very nice.
I love that. I don't know many Taurus at all.
Yeah.
I feel like you're like the only other one.
But there's just a lot of similarities. I love it. I'll connect with you on there as well and we can support each other. Do you ever come to New York?